Thank you very much for joining us, everybody. As we all know, our province and municipality has been going through a number of dramatic changes over the last couple of years, especially in the field of real estate. As the dust seems to be settling, I thought it would be interesting to interview some of the partners that I know in the industry to give some perspective on what's been happening in the past to this market, where it is today, and where it is likely to go. It's important to note that any projections or statements that we make here today in discussion are only opinions because we don't have a crystal ball, of course. And so this discussion should not be taken as advice, but rather just feelings of professionals in the industry based on our experience and the data that we're looking at. Today, I'm going to be speaking with my friend and somebody I've worked with for many years in the industry. His name is Anthony Brown. He's a real estate professional with Royal LePage Atlantic, and he manages his own team in Dartmouth. I thought of bringing Anthony in today because he has many, many years of experience in the field of real estate and has a clear understanding of many of the complicated aspects of the industry. Anthony, do you want to just say a few words about yourself?
Yeah, for sure, Drew. I appreciate the kind introduction. I've been doing this for a number of years here. I've seen really, really hot markets. I've seen some cooler markets, buyers markets, sellers markets, balanced markets. I've kind of been through them all. Halifax has typically had a pretty predictable real estate market. That's always been one of our strengths. We're largely a government town, largely a military town, and largely a university-based town. So our real estate market has always been one of consistency. So I guess kind of some of the things that we've seen in the last couple of years have come as a bit of a shock to kind of the average consumer out there. But it's something that many other markets in Canada have experienced in the past. And it's something we can kind of look to other markets to learn from, I would say.
What should we be learning at this point? What are the big lessons we should be taking away, especially from the last 2 years?
The higher the highs are, the lower the lows are. The real estate market is a free trading market, so we can really look to fundamental microeconomics to kind of predict where the market's going to go and look historically. We're always going to have a cyclical market. It's always going to be a little bit busier in times like spring, early summer, fall, early winter. It's typically going to be a little bit slower later into the winter and kind of in the middle of the summer. And that's really just a fundamental byproduct of microeconomics. It's supply and demand. A lot of people are blaming the interest rate hikes. They're blaming inflation. They're putting the blame on a lot of external factors, which certainly do factor into it a little bit. But I would just caution people that this is the cycle our market tends to always follow. We just haven't historically had the higher highs. So we haven't really seen the lower lows.
Right on. Now, so where do you think this could be taking us in the next year? What's your opinion on that?
So right now we're still in a pretty hot seller's market. It's not like it was 4 or 5 months ago, but we're still operating with 1.5 months of inventory. So when I say months of inventory, that's basically the absorption rate for the market. So if there was no other listings taken in HRM, it would take 1.5 months from this day to sell all the listings in Halifax. And that's a pretty hot seller's market. So between 4 and 6 months of inventory, that absorption rate is what we would consider a balanced market. Over 6 months of inventory is a buyer's market, and under 4 months of inventory is a seller's market. So we're still in a pretty hot seller's market. It's just not what it was 4 or 5 months ago.
Do you remember what it was 4 or 5 months ago, approximately?
We were down under 1/2 month of inventory.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
So if you look at that data, if there was no new listings taken, it would have taken 2 weeks to sell every listing in HRM. So, we have to remember, we're at the end of July, the start of August. It's when a lot of people are on vacation, a lot of people are away. It's not typically a busy time in our real estate market. So I think our market's still kind of following the typical cycle that it would have in a normal year.
I've been reading that the market's been dropping quite a lot in many places in Canada. Do you see that happening in Nova Scotia as well eventually?
Yeah, I think I wouldn't say drop. I think it's going to kind of level out. If you look at our rolling appreciation, so for the rolling 12 months, we're still up about 18% in average sale price compared to this time last year. So, I mean, our market's still up. Our average sale price is still up. Has it dropped in some areas? A little bit, yes. I think it will continue to kind of balance out. So I don't think we're going to continue to go 18 to 25% appreciation year over year. That's not a sustainable market. I think what you're going to see is it's going to kind of plateau and it's going to level out, and hopefully we go back to kind of that consistent, 4 to 7% appreciation. A nice rolling rate of appreciation for our market here.
But why is it staying up here and dropping in other places?
I think it has to do with our average sale price. Like through COVID, real estate prices kind of went crazy in most major markets in Canada. Not all, but most. But for example, take the GTA. Their average sale price was 3 or 4 times what ours was when that started. So if you look at our average sale price going up 25% one year, 21% the next year, 18% the next year, that's not starting with where our baseline started. It's still an affordable market for a lot of people. I say this kind of jokingly to people. The people that say that Halifax real estate is really expensive right now are only the people that are living here. If you talk to people in other markets, they still think that our real estate's crazy affordable.
Yeah, the people that I'm talking to that are feeling that it's unaffordable are, we're not necessarily earning GTA level incomes.
Exactly.
So I think that that affects people's sentiment as well. What effect do you think potential even higher interest rate hikes could have on this market in Nova Scotia in particular and in HRM?
Well, I think first of all, we are going to see more increases to interest rates. Like I predict somewhere between 50 and 75 basis points the first week of September. We're starting to curb inflation a little bit. The numbers that came out in July were definitely, brought some hope to the whole curbing inflation, kind of getting that down a little bit. So I do think we're going to see another interest rate hike. BOC has been pretty clear that they have a target that they want to hit, and we're not there yet. I would be very surprised if it's another full point. I think, that was kind of a shock to even people that are in the industry and people that kind of follow this stuff. The 100 basis points that we got hit with was a bit of a shock. That was the highest rate hike. I might be incorrect here, but since the mid-late 90s, I believe, was the last time we saw a full percentage point. So I don't know that we're going to see another 100 basis point bump, but we will see 50 to 75 basis points. And what that does, that certainly impacts a certain segment of the market. Like that will eliminate some people from the home purchasing market. Like some people will not be able to buy because of that. But more what we're seeing people that just have less of buying power. So say, for example, I'm looking for a house. I'm looking in the 750 to 800 range. Another 50 or 75 basis points might bring me down. I might be looking in, the high sixes, low sevens. So it definitely does play a factor, but we're also seeing more inventory on the market. So this time last year, we had about half of the available inventory that we have now. So yes, it's still a pretty hot seller's market with 1.5 months of inventory, but there's definitely more available options. So there's more things for people to be out there looking at. I don't think the demand is going anywhere. People still want to move to Nova Scotia. We're seeing a huge influx of people coming to Nova Scotia, but I think there's going to be a little bit more supply. So a little bit more on the market. And I think that's largely due to new home starts. So we need to see a few more big developments going on here in the HRM. And I do think that's coming. A little bit more inventory, same level of demand. Again, that microeconomic imbalance we have right now where the supply is way down here and the demand's way up here. We're just going to bring that a little bit closer together.
This has been on my mind a lot. Before the pandemic, 5 years ago even, it felt like this was not a hot place to live. People were talking down on Nova Scotia a lot, and then all of a sudden we are the hot place to be. So what do you think that's all about?
Well, it's interesting you say that. So like I have friends and people that kind of register on our website, people that I talk to in different markets all the time, and you'd be talking to them a few years ago, and maybe they were to Halifax once, or they came here for a vacation once to Cape Breton or something like that. Now you talk to people, and their aunt and uncle just moved here, or they were just here on vacation. Like, COVID really kind of put Nova Scotia on the national map. Well, people really like it here. Like, I just moved, so a young couple from Ontario moved here, and then both sets of parents moved here, and I mean, honestly, their whole family wants to move here. It's quite interesting where people seem to love Nova Scotia, and we're seeing there's a good mix of that. So like, I'm 38, so when I graduated from university, a lot of people that I was friends with had to move outside of Atlantic Canada for employment opportunities. Now, a lot of those people that were from here, they got into housing markets in different areas of the country. They're selling in Ontario or in BC or in Alberta, wherever they're at, and they want to come back home. And that's about half of, when you talk about out of province demand, because there is a huge out of province demand right now. I would say about half of our buyers actively within my team are coming from outside of Nova Scotia.
Right.
And I would even say the vast majority of that's outside of Atlantic Canada. But that's somewhere in the 60-40 range of people that have once lived here or are from here and are coming back versus people that have never lived here before. So it's an interesting mix coming from out of province.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I hadn't even thought of that. Is people moving out, buying a house in Toronto for 800,000, selling it for 1.5 or something, and then coming back,
I mean, even more
or more, and then buying something here that's affordable for them. What do you think that people should be watching out for now that things are leveling off? Be um, should they be waiting for interest rates to level off to see what's going on? Should they be buying now? What's your thoughts on that?
I mean, my advice with the interest rates is, I don't think you're going to make back the difference in the interest rate versus what properties are going to appreciate for. I don't think there's an equal balance there. So if you are able to buy now, you have the capacity to buy, you have good buying power now, I think waiting will do more damage than benefit on the market appreciation. So the average sale price going up versus the interest rates going up. I don't think there's an equal balance there. I see an opportunity to buy right now. So I think the market's going to kind of stay where it's at now, probably until, and again, I don't have a crystal ball. This is just kind of looking at historical data, but I would say kind of early to mid-October, our market's going to take a bit of a bump. I think inflation's going to continue to go down. I think come September, there might be a little bit of a different narrative from the Bank of Canada in terms of interest rates. Like, I don't know that we're going to see the bumps in the overnight rate that we have been seeing for very much longer. So I would say between now and kind of early mid-October, there's a bit of an opportunity on the buy side. I think come mid-fall, we're going to see the market go up a little bit. And then I think next spring, late March, early April, I think our market's going to be pretty busy again. I think it's going to be an interesting run for the greater Halifax area here. And I mean, I talk a lot about HRM, but the Valley, the real estate market in the Valley is crazy. Rural properties, Cape Breton, there's been nice market appreciation there. So, I mean, I talk specifically about HRM, but there's other areas of Nova Scotia that have done quite well through this as well. But I think it's going to be an interesting, I would say 7 to 10 years for the greater Halifax area. We've become a real city. People in Atlantic Canada always thought that Halifax was a big city. And it's funny, once you travel to other real cities, Halifax kind of feels like a big town. It's really gotten classy. Halifax is getting classed up, it's getting dressed up. You look at our waterfront, there's a lot of buildings going up. Aesthetically speaking, we're kind of catching up with some of the more modern architect trends, things like that. I think Halifax is getting a really nice class change, and I think it's becoming a bigger city, a real city.
Yeah, I was down on the waterfront a week ago, and it's like it hadn't been that long since I was down there, maybe a year or so, but it felt like everything was changed. It was crazy.
Yeah,
It was
yeah.
bumping. There was lots of activity. It was really fun.
Here's the cool thing, like it's definitely growing exponentially. Like, I think I read an article not that long ago that the downtown core of Halifax was the fastest growing center of any region in the country.
Yeah.
Population growth around 20%. So it's growing quickly, but people still love Haligonians. Like they love people from Halifax. They love people from Nova Scotia. We're a little, a little bit more laid back. I think there's a big appeal to some people about that. I talked to the people that we've sold. So we've done a lot of out of province deals in the past couple of years, and they love the people here. They love the trees, they love the pace of life, and they love the people. Those are kind of like the three things: the space, the pace, and the people. The three things that people kind of talk about.
I felt like there was a lot of people buying properties to rent them out and Airbnb them out. Now that interest rates have gone up, is that as lucrative for people to do you think? We were trying to find a property to buy and rent, but now the numbers aren't looking as good to us as a family to do that, to make good cash flow on that. But what's your opinion on that? Is that Airbnb buying to Airbnb going to slow down and kind of move back into a purchase to buy for the family owned properties?
Yeah, I think real estate as an investing platform, like that's how I first got into real estate many, many, many years ago. I bought my first rental property and I thought the world of it. It's a great investment because the candle burns at both ends. Someone's paying down your loan while your property is making natural market appreciation. So you're making money on both sides of it. Now, with raising interest rates, it's certainly made it harder for kind of the average small landlord. So small investors, and I say small, so I would say like less than 10 doors. So less than 10 units, it's definitely more difficult. But it's also, there's a lot more bigger players in the multifamily game in Halifax right now than there was before. So there's a lot more big companies that own thousands of doors that are coming in buying multifamily opportunities. That's making it more difficult for the average investor here in the HRM market. But that's something that larger markets have been dealing with for years. What I think you'll see more of is people buying a larger single family home, putting in a secondary suite in the basement and maybe Airbnb that out or having that as a rental to assist with the payments for the property. I think that's where you're going to see more of an uptick. There's definitely going to be a less of an opportunity for the average, again, John Smith that owns a couple condos in Clayton Park and wants to buy more to add to his portfolio. I think there's going to be less of that, but there's going to be more of an opportunity to, again, Airbnb out your basement or rent out a backyard suite or something like that. That's where I think the opportunity lies right now.
This has been a great conversation, Anthony. A lot of great insights into what we could potentially be seeing coming down the road and to help people with their decision making. Was there any other tidbits you wanted to throw out just with regards to the market in general?
So one thing I'll say is, I get a lot of messages and a lot of calls from people that read articles that the market's going to crash or that prices are going to go down by 25%. A lot of that stuff isn't localized to our market. Like a lot of that stuff isn't local to the Halifax market or the Nova Scotia market. I think I encourage people to look at the economics of the market before you're going to make a major life decision, whether you're going to buy, whether you're going to sell, whether you're going to buy investment properties. Look at the economics of the market or talk to someone that knows about the economics of the market. It's always going to be supply demand. If there's more demand than there is supply, it's always going to be a seller's market. If there's an equal balance between the supply and the demand, it'll be a balanced market. If there's more supply than there is demand, which is, I know it just doesn't even seem comprehensible right now, but then it's going to be a buyer's market. No matter what the interest rates are, no matter what the inflation is, no matter what Bank of Canada is doing, no matter about, out of province taxes, anything like that, it's fundamental microeconomics. It's supply and demand. So before you make a major life choice about not buying or not selling or not buying investment properties or whatever it might be, look at the economics of the market, talk to someone that knows the economics of the market, and make your decision based on economics. Make your decision based on factual information, not an article from XYZ that got published out of Vancouver.
Yeah, absolutely. Do your research, do your due diligence, right?
Exactly.
Well, it was a pleasure chatting with you, my friend.
Of
And
course, Dan, listen, anytime.
maybe we'll do it again sometime.
Anytime, man, you name it.
All right. Hope you enjoy the rest of your day.
All right, thanks so much.
Talk to you later. Bye now.
Bye-bye.